Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 61 of Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. I am your host, Jeremy Vilmer, and now the star of the show and president of the Thunder Rosa fan club, Bobby Blaze.
Yes. Hello, Professor. You did it. You called me out on Thunder Rosa. Yeah. She's the bomb in my book, man. I like that little girl. She's tough as nails, ready to kick some ass, man.
Yeah, she's pretty badass, that one.
Yeah, I think so. Speaking of which, anyone else in NWA grabbing your eyes lately?
Yeah, there's Camille Brickhouse, who I like quite a bit there. I don't know if she's going to end up wrestling or what the deal with her is. I think it's funny that we have a second situation where the woman running around with Nick Aldis is kind of outshining him a bit. But that's just me.
Yeah, she's pretty hot too. I tell you, I like that NWA product. I've kept with it, each week. I really enjoyed it, man. That Thunder Rosa, she just really made an impression on me. And then she had an MMA fight, of course, and I really respect someone that you can just see through the hard work and effort that when they get in that ring, man, it just really pays off and it comes across as professionalism. And I just see her as a shooting star, man. I really do. And of course, they got a good mix there with the the younger talent and the older talent. And I like it because it is what it is. It's the good studio wrestling, and I've enjoyed each episode. And I know we've got a couple more before they go back to tape some more. So I'm looking forward to the next couple of episodes too. So that's a good little deal there.
Yeah, so am I. Me and my brother get together now every week to watch it. Now, this week, though, I ended up having to bounce out a little bit early, so I didn't catch the end of it. So I'll do that tonight, probably. Right. I have enjoyed it. It is really heavy on nostalgia. I don't know if that'll wear thin or not, but the wrestling in it is solid, which is the thing I like about it.
Right, yeah.
Yeah.
How about the other products out there? Anything while we're talking about wrestling at the top of the hour here?
So again, I don't watch WWE. From what I can tell from talking to people who do, it sounds like what's been going on is still going on. It's just like they're beating the same drum over and over. What I was a little bit shocked by were two guys I know who were really looking forward to AEW coming out are kind of falling out of love with it.
Yeah, I'm getting a mixed feeling on that as well. I hear a little bit. I talked to several people. I get a little bit mixed feeling. Some people that was on board at the beginning are just kind of like, let's just kind of see what happens. They say they like it. They're not, they're not watching it right now. But yeah. I think they're a little bit let down. I'll say that. It is what it is. It's I think they're trying to compete with WWE. I guess that's the whole idea. So I guess when Ben's trade picked up that Wednesday night, so there would be, a Wednesday night war, if you will. Mm-hmm. So I guess that, there's a whole lot of wrestling available right now that you can watch, from the WWE to the AEW to the NWA, to you still got your Ring of Honor, Impact, and all that. So you can just about watch wrestling every damn night on TV, and if not, it's certainly all over the internet. I mean, that's just the way it is nowadays. So I don't know if there is a Wednesday night war, even though I see some ratings people post on Twitter or something. I don't know if that's really I don't know. Do you think it is? Is it a competition or not?
I've been trying to get my head around because, I haven't had cable for almost 10 years,
Yeah.
I don't even know how you do, a quote-unquote Nielsen rating nowadays, because I've been in a Nielsen family a couple times. We used to, catalog everything we watched, blah, blah, blah. But nowadays, with DVR and some of the stuff, look at the NWA. It's on Facebook and YouTube. Mm-hmm. Does that even register? Does anybody even pay attention to that? I don't know. AEW Dark is on YouTube. It's not on a regular channel. I don't know how you even catalog what people are watching at this point. I mean, to me, it seems like you would have to specifically ask people, how many hours a week do you watch pro wrestling on television and the internet to even get an idea of it?
Yeah. Well, the point is, it's a good time to be a wrestling fan. That's
Boy, is it.
Sure. You got enough of it out there, man.
Well, there's a diverse product. There's still all the little stuff that we were getting by on in the last 20 years. These little promotions that cropped up, regionals and things. Plus, there's a lot of big name players now. In New Japan, WWE has 3 brands out there running. I mean, that's a pretty big deal. AEW's out there running, which I'm starting to think AEW might be gearing for younger viewers. And certainly you and I and a lot of our listeners are going to the NWA because it feels like the NWA is trying to get us as viewers.
Yep, I think you're right on that.
Yeah.
Well, you're the professor.
Well, it's just me throwing spaghetti at a wall and hoping something sticks,
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. Makes a lot of sense. So, but I'm glad they're doing as well as they are,
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Bobby. So we're going to do something different today. We're not doing a top 10 list.
Okay.
But what we're going to do is you're going to tell me about how you got into Smoky Mountain.
Yeah, we've had a couple fan requests out there to talk about my Smoky Mountain career. And so we're going to keep it strictly just on the Smoky Mountain my entire time there, from the first phone call till when they finally shut down. I'll just kind of guide me through it if you need to. Stop me when you may, and we'll go from there. How's that?
That sounds perfect to me.
And I loved working it. I loved working that territory. It was a great territory to work. So,
well, what area did Smoky Mountain cover?
They covered, our home base was, Morristown, Tennessee, Morristown, Knoxville, down that area. But it covered, our regular town were Morristown, Knoxville, Johnson City, Tennessee, and then Barbersville, Kentucky. Those 4 towns were the main 4 towns. Then we rented, Kentucky, Tennessee, down in Georgia a couple times, over to Virginia, up into southern West Virginia some, and then down in North Carolina a few times. But the main base was from right. We went to Charlotte several times, but from Charlotte up through Hickory, up through the North Carolina, all through there, all the way over to southeastern Virginia, West Virginia, just Tennessee, Kentucky. I'm trying to think. Went to Georgia a few times. So just in that southeast region of the U.S. there, if you will, southeast region.
Yeah.
East Tennessee, we ran East Tennessee. We didn't go over past Nashville. I'll go over that towards the end of the conversation about how far over we went. But, Memphis stayed out towards Memphis to Nashville, and we ran from Knoxville over towards Nashville. So it was kind of divided between East Tennessee versus West Tennessee.
Yep.
So.
All right. So now we got an idea what area this was. Now, as far as the formation of Smoky Mountain, I'm just going to hit this real quick, and then if we need to dig into it, you can tell us more about it. Apparently, it was when Jim Cornette, Stan Lane, Tim Horner, and Sandy Scott left WCW, they formed Smoky Mountain, as it turned out eventually with Rick Rubin, the music producer's backing.
Mm-hmm.
So that was kind of the formation. I guess originally they tried to become an NWA territory, and the NWA told them no because somebody else was already working as a territory there. I don't know how that shook out, though. Because eventually Jim Cornette did end up promoting NWA titles and stuff for a bit. So, what do you know anything about that, or did I hit that pretty well?
No, I know. I ended up, I wrestled, when Candido had it, and I wrestled Severn twice that we mentioned, NWA titles. But no, at the beginning, I knew who some of the players were, but I was going to talk you from what I knew. I was in Florida. I had been trained out in Malenko's. I had been to, Canada a couple of times. I'd already been to South Africa. I'd been to several places, and still working down in Florida. But while I was working in Florida, I was also training at still training at Malenko's, and a couple guys told me that they heard Cornette was opening up a territory. They said, aren't you? They always thought I was up in Tennessee, and it's close enough, because my accent and stuff. They said, yeah, you talk like you're from Knoxville area. And I used to get that a lot. But anyway, I said, so I just heard that's back when the sheets was, we still read the dirt sheets and this and that. So I guess around February of 92, I guess is when Smoky Mountain actually had their first TV tapings. And I ran into Tommy Rogers. And this is how I kind of got my foot in the door. And I'll talk you through it. It took me 9 months to actually get into Smoky Mountain. And basically, I ran into Tommy. Tommy'd come by sometimes at Malenko's, would train for Japan, or maybe be doing an indie show down there. And he also worked out at one of the gyms I worked out of. And he mentioned it. So about 2 or 3 people had mentioned it, and I guess he had come up for the TV tapings, and I ran into him. We talked. He said, aren't you from up in that area? I said, yeah. He said, Corny's opened the territory. And I said, that's great, So he said, I'll be talking to him tonight, and care if I pass your name along. I was like, no, that'd be great. I appreciate it. That'd be great. So he talked to him. Well, the next day, he gave me Cornette's number, and I called Cornette, and long story short on that, Jimmy picked up the phone and said, hey, Bobby, we started talking for like 2 minutes. He goes, Bobby, I'm really busy. Let me call you back tomorrow. Well, the next night, of course, I'm sure he was still busy. He didn't call me back, and that's fine. I'm like a little schoolgirl waiting on a, high school quarterback or something. No,
sure.
Not anything like that. Strictly business, So I see Tommy at the gym the following day. So about 3 or 4 days passed, and he said, hey, did you talk to Jimmy? And I told him no. He said, be home at 9 tonight. He said, I'll have him call you back, at least, get some conversation out of him and see what's going on. I know he's busy. So when Cornette called back, very professional, hey, Bobby, and he told him what's going on. He said, yeah, I am. I'm working up in this area. Told me some of the towns. He said, but I don't even have a full crew yet. I'm just now getting my TV together. He said, I'll certainly keep you in mind. Send me what you have. So again, this is probably in March or April, late March, early April, because again, I'm still down in Florida. I stayed there through June. So anyway, Cornette, I sent him the stuff. I sent him some pictures I had and VHS tape that I had. And, of course, didn't hear anything back or anything other than to stay in touch with me. So fast forward to that conversation until about June, late June of 92. And I was back home. Like I said, I stayed to Florida to early June. And I come to find out there was a Smoky Mountain Wrestling show about an hour from my house, and that Cornette was going to be there. And I thought, well, what better way than not go and see him in person? We've already made contact. I've been keeping in contact with him like he told me. Let's see what's happening. So I was on my way to Canada, but I was going to be home for the whole month of June. I wasn't leaving for Canada until after the 4th of July for my second tour up there. So long story short on that, I rode up to a little town called Paintsville, Kentucky. That Smoky Mountain ended up running quite a bit. It's about an hour from my house. And I got there and met Jimmy in person, and we just talked and everything just, hey, I'm really interested in coming in, told him what I'd been doing. I said the only reason I left Florida is I'm heading up to Canada. I'm getting ready to do that, my second tour there. I told him I'd been to South Africa, doing this, doing that, and so he said, oh, that's great. Now, keep in mind, this is like June of 92, so it's still early on with Smoky Mountain if you're following the tapings or anything like that. But I gave Jimmy another tape and more pictures and, probably some of the same ones. I don't know what I had and this and that. So, well, keep in touch with me. So, of course, I went and done Canada for about, I think that second tour was another 16 weeks or whatever. So by the time I get home, I'm staying in touch with them just here and there. Nothing really happens until 93. So now I've talked to him in 92. Now it's February of 93. I go to Australia. I go do a big tour over there, and I come home from there towards the middle or end of March. Sent my stuff in, stayed in contact, like I said. But what happened was Bobby Fulton got a hold of me, of the Fantastics. Of course, Tommy, earlier I mentioned, was from the Fantastics. They had done some work for Cornette, like I said earlier on, the tapings and stuff. And Bobby had found out that, actually ran some towns for Smoky Mountain Wrestling. So anyway, he gets a hold of me, and I was jet lagged as can be, but he said, hey, I got a town. It was over in Ohio. And I hadn't met Bobby. I knew Tommy because I used to see him quite a bit, but I hadn't never really met Bobby before. So the first night I met him, I went to a town, and we've talked about some of the shows I've done with him where you do the captain's match and and if anyone's young out there listening, I'll tell you how important a lockup is. And by this point, when I was in Australia, I had my 475th match while I was over there. So I'm probably close to, getting close to 500 matches, legit, matches. And Bobby said, come here. And he stepped to the shower and said, lock up with me. And I locked up with him. And I tell us the young people, the young guys getting in business all the time, you can tell by the way someone locked up they got experience or not. And he locked up. He goes, oh, that's great. But he said, hey, I heard good things about you from Dee Malenko and my partner, Tommy Rogers. So that's another thing. My name and my training and stuff, that was what Bobby had said, And anyway, I guess Cornette and him had exchanged my name and number. So fast forward, so that went well. Bobby called me back the next day and said, hey, I got some more bookings for you, blah, blah, blah. So fast forward about another 2 or 3 weeks, and Cornette calls me and asked me if I'd like to have a tryout because I guess Bobby had put in a good word for me that, hey, I was a pretty good hand or whatever. And with that, let's take a quick break if you don't care, and I'll tell you about my tryout. Think real quickly about that Paintsville show. That's the other thing. When I went there, I sat on a babyface's side. They had a hell of a crew. It was the Stud Stable was there, and then also on the babyface side, it was Brian Lee and Robert Gibson was there, and so was Scotty Armstrong. And one of the last things Cornette said to me, because he had to go to the Hill locker room as fans started coming, et cetera, he said, are you going to stick around and watch the show? And I said, oh, yeah, absolutely. He goes, good. He goes, see where you think you might fit in here. See if you think you can work with some of these guys, And so I thought that was really encouraging, too, So I went over and sat by the babyface side because I'd already spoken to Brian and Robert earlier, and then I spoke to Scotty, of course, and we all sit there talking. But I kind of had an idea, what kind of crew they had, and also it was a good little house show matches, But I thought that was really professional. Cornette said, hey, see where you might fit in at, So anyway, we'll come back from that.
Yeah. Okay. So I've got some follow-up questions here just to get a kind of a sense of story and scale here.
Sure.
Had you met Jim Cornette before the conversations about joining Smoky Mountain had ever come up?
No, I'd only seen him, of course, when I used to come to Huntington or Charleston or whatever, managing the Midnight Express. But I had spoken to Bobby Eaton a couple of times just because that's the kind of guy Bobby Eaton is. I'd be there being a fan, and I'd say, hey, Bobby, he always waved to people and didn't go back behind the curtain or whatever, But no, I didn't know Jimmy other than that first time I made that phone call to him, and then when I met him in like I said, in Huntsville.
Yeah. And then a question I always have for people, because I know you were a wrestling fan, and, before I started like my podcast and things, I'm just a fucking nerd, and I've met some pretty famous people. Did you get starstruck when you first got into wrestling? Because, I know early on you worked with Flair, or you met Flair and Roddy Piper in the same night, and I would have shit my pants. What was that like for you?
No, not really, to be honest with you. Just where I had been around the business so much anyway, and such a fan of it, I don't recall that, Jeremy.
Yeah.
It was I was a fan for sure, but I didn't mark out, if that makes sense. I guess because I felt like I was one of the boys already.
Sure.
I mean, I knew it was a fraternity and a special thing to be in, but just being on working independent shows and didn't also, like, I had set up the ring down in Florida. I set up the ring for the NWA when they came down there before. I had been around, so many guys that, I was, oh gosh, that's so-and-so, Kevin Sullivan or who else did I see down in Florida there? I'd see some of these guys, Barry Windham, Kendall, I'd seen some of these guys before, maybe not on a scale of a Flair, like you're saying, when I met Flair and Piper that night. But no, I just kind of, just a fan, but I didn't, fanboy or anything.
Oh, yeah. Well, because, I know two celebrities I met, I was just dumbfounded, couldn't speak when I met them. It was Aaron Gray and, oh, damn it, what's her name? The redhead from Doctor Who, that was in Guardians of the Galaxy. A friend of mine saw the picture I took with her. He goes, you look like you're sweaty and about to pass out. And I was like, yeah, I really, really was. So, yeah. So early on, I definitely got starstruck. And so I'm always curious about that, because early on, I also got stage fright, but I've also led Q&A sessions with, Kevin Eastman from the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in front of 300 people and not even had it bother me. So I'm always curious about that,
Yeah. No, and I'm not saying I haven't ever been. I'm sure I have been, but not necessarily in the professional wrestling business at that point. I just was like, sometimes it's like just two guys discussing business, you know.
Well, yeah, and I guess, your fraternal remark, I guess, kind of sets that up, because I guess once you're in, you feel like you belong, so it's probably less of a, like, holy shit,
Yeah. No, I when I was a fan, like going to some of those shows in Huntington and Charleston back when the NWO would come, and I got in and I got close to backstage or whatever. Yeah, sure. When you get, when I wasn't in the business, but still a fan. Yeah, sure. I was like, oh, there's so-and-so. Let's go. There's whoever it is, but, so yeah, I used to get that away when I was younger, but not once I was in the business. I was pretty much, just like you said, that fraternity type thing.
Yeah. And then the last comment I have is people have trouble placing your accent, because you've got a Baltimore accent with a twang on it, and that's why people don't know where you come from.
I know, hon. They're big on saying hun up there, so that's right, hun. Yeah. That might be what it is.
Well, because you don't really have a Kentucky accent.
I don't know. It's pretty Appalachian, I guess. I don't know, but I'll take the Baltimore twang. So
I think that's what you got. I've been trying to place it since I met you, and that's been about 2 years now, and I think that's what it is. Yeah.
Okay, we'll go with that.
All right. Well, we got our break there. Let's talk about this. If anybody wants to know more about your career, you also have written a couple books.
Yes. Yep. And absolutely. Both books are available on Amazon. You can go to, I've got Pin Me, Pay Me, Have Boots Will Travel. You can go to tinyurl.com/blazebook1. That'll get you my first book. And I do talk a whole lot about Smoky Mountain Wrestling in there, which I'm going to cover in just a few more minutes, some of the other stuff up to the title and things. And then also you can get I Kicked Out on 2, The Educational Wrestler. You can get that, my second book. You can get that at tinyurl.com/blazebook2. Again, either one of those are available at Amazon. But if you would like to help our program out here, help the podcast out, we get a little bit of kickback by that if you use the tinyurl.com/blazebook1 or tinyurl.com/blazebook2 for either Pin Me, Pay Me, I Kicked Out on 2, or both of them. Pin Me, Pay Me, I Kicked Out on 2. That's both of them right in a nutshell. Yeah, but Pin Me, Pay Me is one I talk about Smoky Mountain a lot more in that one. So if you're liking this story, you can kind of follow along with that.
Absolutely. All right. So where did we leave off in your story here?
So yeah, I was getting ready to try out. So I had been over in Australia, like I said, got the call from Bobby Fulton, and then I don't know, a couple weeks later, Cornette called me and asked me if I'd like to have a tryout. And I was like, and the funny thing was, at the time, I was, like I said, I was still kind of jet lagged because I'd been over in Australia, and I hardly ever sleep during the daytime. And I was over at my parents' at my old room. I was just kind of in transit because I've been to, like I said, been to Florida, been to Canada, then I've been to Australia. So it's like hard for me to keep a room pretty much anywhere. But one of my brother knocked on the door and said, "Hey, you got a phone call?" I said, "Tell him to call back. I'm sleeping." And I hardly ever say that. That was just something so uncommon for me, to tell you the truth. And but again, it must have been a jet lag. He goes, "I think you might want to take this one." It's Jim Cornette. And I jumped up out of that bed. Yeah. So there I might have been starstruck because even though I'd met him, I was like, I went in there and he said, "Hey, Bobby," he said, "this Jim we're running. I was wanting to know if you'd like to have a tryout. This coming next week, I think it was." And I was like, "Yeah, I'd love one." He goes, "Yeah, we're going to be up in your area." And he said, "I heard a lot about you, so can you be in Beckley, West Virginia?" And it was an afternoon show, and that was one of the regular towns. Beckley, West Virginia used to be a great NWA town. They used to draw really good there. I remember Bullet telling me a couple of times how good the houses were there once I got up there. But anyway, so I had a tryout coming up, and I was like, man, this is great. I still had I was in really good shape because I'd been all these places. I'd been, training hard. It was winter time here, but it was, summer over in Australia. So we was over there tanning every day, lifting and working in the ring. You can't, that working every night just keeps you in such good shape too. So, I get to Beckley, West Virginia. And of course, I meet Mark Curtis. He's one of the first people I met. And we've talked about him before on the show, and what a great guy he was. And he comes up to me, and we immediately start talking just all this old school wrestling. He's talking about Malenkos, and we're just talking about training. It just clicked right away, one of those type things. Of course, I meet Stan and Bobby is just one of the nicest guys you can ever meet, man. It was just, you want some candy, you want a piece of gum, you need something sewn, you need a towel. He had this bag, you find out eventually he has everything you need, socks to whatever, but he always, just a super great guy. And met Stan, and Tommy Young was still there too at the time, and I thought that was pretty cool. Anyway, because I go to when Brian brings me in, I just go to the babyface locker room and say hi to all them, but I go over to the heel locker room because that's where Cornette's going to be, like I said, Stan and Bobby, them guys. So when Cornette gets there, he goes around, says hi to everyone, and says, "Hey, you want to come out here and talk?" And I, "Yes, sir." I wasn't going to sit there in front of the boys. I don't know what he's going to tell me or not tell me, And he said, "Hey, Bobby, I just want to thank you for having me on the show here." And, blah, blah. I was just very professional, And about, I don't know, a minute and a half later, he said, "Well, hold on a second." He opened the bathroom door up there, and Big Brian Lee walks in. And, I hadn't talked to him yet. I talked to him back, like I said, at that summer show way back when, but that night I hadn't talked to him because he was over the babyface side. And anyway, so he comes into that bathroom, and he goes, "Hey, Bobby, you met Brian?" I go, "Hey, and he goes, "You wouldn't have a problem putting him over, would you?" I looked up at Brian. I go, looked at Jimmy. I go, "Are you kidding me?" I said, this is what I said. I said, "He's 6'6" and weighs about 300 pounds. I have a problem whatsoever." I said, "What's your finish, big man?" And Jimmy and him both started laughing. They go, No, man, you're not here to get squashed or anything." He said, "Just go out there and have a good match. And Brian, tell him your finish, And Jimmy left, and that was it. And I go, "What do you want to do?" And Brian goes, I don't know, you're the fucking heel. Get out there and call it, kid. He goes, I'm going to tell you, my finish is this. He goes, I pick you up. It's nice and easy. When I bring you down, just relax. I'll drop you nice and easy. I'm like, all right, man. So that's my introduction to, from Cornette. That's how professional people are. You know what I'm saying? He just knew, the right way to treat people and how to talk to people and those type things. So, I go back over to the locker room. Brian we haven't caught anything. Mm-hmm. We haven't said a word other than what I just now told you. And I go over to the locker room. There was another match before mine. I can't remember who it was, to be honest with you. They had a couple other guys that were still doing kind of tryout things and also had done that loop. And I think that was the third day of a loop. They'd done a Friday, Saturday, just for the Sunday afternoon show. I know the guy. I can't remember. I think it's Curtis Thompson and someone else were like the opening match. And like I said, they had a couple other guys on the show too. But anyway, so I get out there and here I am, like 6'1", about 215 maybe. And then prime time, he's like, man, he looks great. Brian looks great, like 6'6", like he is about 280. And that's the other thing, Courtney said, he's been our TV champion. He's been our first champion here. He, tell me about him. Like, I don't care what he's done. I'm gonna still put him over. You know what I'm saying? You ain't got to convince me, but just very professional. We get in the ring and, I lock up with Brian and, he says, dick drag. So I give him an arm drag, and he takes a big-ass arm drag for me. Now, I'm supposed to be the heel calling the match, but that's fine because, he's a work to the heel too, but I'm there to make him look good and put him over, but it's my tryout. And we get up, and he goes, oh, you like that, did you? I start laughing. He goes, dick drag me again. So I gave him another real big, deep, arm drag, and he got up and he looked at Brian, he pulled him over, and it's almost like he's working as a heel, but he goes, I dare Cornette to hire this guy. He said, he's already good, I could tell. We locked back up, and he said, whatever you want to do, just call it. And I just called the rest of the match. I started working heel like, hey, he's pulling my hair, he's pulling my trunks, the whole heel gimmick, and we went about 10 minutes. I got some heat on him. I kicked him, I bent him over, and I said, stay, and I did a Russian leg sweep, and I got a little bit of heat on him. He took it, boom, 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 and it was time for the comeback, and basically, I just put myself in position, because I didn't really know how to do his finish other than he said, when I pick you up, I'll lay you down flat, and he had a thing where he picked you up like a shoulder breaker, and he picked me up across the shoulder, dropped down to a knee at Georgia. Then he just slid me off, 1, 2, 3, and thank you, and that was it, and I thought, oh, man, that's cool. And that's also the first night I met Sandy Scott. Tim Horner was there. I think Tim Horner was there. I could be wrong on that. I know Sandy Scott was because Sandy came and gave me my paycheck, and I hadn't asked for any money. I didn't know what to expect or anything like that, and they handed me a check for $75. And I was like, oh, man. Well, two things. One, it was a check, and I was broke. Yeah. I had a little bit of cash on me, but I'm thinking, oh, what do I don't, you're still skeptical at this point going, first of all, I was happy at $75. I was surprised, to be honest with you. I had an idea what it might be, but I wasn't sure, but I was surprised at the check, and I thought, man, are they kidding me? Everywhere I've went, I've got cash. Don't, So I went and found Jimmy. Of course, we talked. He said, good match, blah, blah, blah. And then I got paid. He said, see Sandy for your pay. Well, of course, he's going to go back out and work the main event, too. But anyway, long story short, he said, find Sandy. And so my first run-in with Sandy was after I got my check I had to go back and ask him to cash it because I wasn't sure if that check would bounce or not, honestly. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. I hadn't been paid by check. And so Sandy was like, I've already counted the money. And so my first run-in with Sandy was just kind of like we started off with like, oh, shit, because he's a tough old son of a gun. I have nothing but respect for him. But, man, I thought, oh, God, he's going to kill me the way he was talking to me just by cashing the check. I got to get back in that cash box, and I got to do this and do that. And I was like, oh, geez. But he had already signed everything out. They're a legitimate company, you know what I'm saying? So he said, sign it over to me. So I signed it over, and I got cash and thanked him and this and that. Of course, our relationship got better after that when I came back in. But, that first day I was like, oh, shit, this guy's tough. He's going to whip my ass for just asking to cash my own check, But I just want to leave there with cash. That's all it was. It wasn't anything wrong with that. So, like I said, I talked to the boys and had a good match. I felt like it was a real good tryout match. And so that was the middle of March, like I said, when I came home from Australia. So I was home like a couple of weeks, whatever. And Jimmy, so I'll be in touch with you. And if you want to take a break right here, I'll tell you what happened next.
All right. Yeah. And Bobby, your internet got a little bit shaky. I could still make out everything you said, but we might need to keep an ear. I understand you're having some trouble today.
Okay. Yes.
You're still coming through clear right now, but we had a few words there where it got a little goofy.
Yeah, I saw my yellow warning sign on my internet. It's been 3 or 4 days like that, tell you the truth, so I'll keep my eye on it too. But so let's take a break right there so you can just put in whatever if you don't care.
Yeah, no problem. Let's
the internet was doing that.
Yeah. Well, let's do, we'll talk about YouTube real quick here because we cover a lot of classic wrestling on YouTube. That's kind of the niche we've carved out for ourselves, and that was the place in wrestling that you and I are the biggest fans of. So we have a guy that we keep down in the basement. It's not as kinky as it sounds. His name is Tex, and he does our YouTube videos. What he does is he takes the shows, slices them up, and recontextualizes parts that we talk about, adds in videos and, little pieces that add some context to everything that we talk about, and then puts them up on YouTube. Now, Tex is a really busy guy. I don't know how somebody who lives in the basement stays as busy as he does. But sometimes our YouTube page slows down a little bit. But Bobby, where can they find our YouTube page at?
Yeah, check us out on YouTube at tinyurl.com/BBBB video. And Tex does a great job at that. I think the problem was getting them at TV when college football season's on. That's what's happened. Yeah. But he's done a great job. He does a lot of graphics for our Twitter and internet pages. But on the YouTube, he does a fantastic job on that. Again, it's tinyurl.com/BBBB video. Right now, I mentioned football because we have all the wrestlers. There's a top 10 out there of all the wrestlers that were football players first. And I think we went through the first. Texas got the first 3 or 4 up there, 10, 9, and 8, if I'm not mistaken. I know he's working on another one right now as we speak. Also, we've got the top 10 managers. We've got the top 10 heels, regional baby faces. We've got the legitimate badasses has over 660,000 views between all 10 of those videos. I haven't checked them lately, but I know we've got a lot of views on that. And again, it's tinyurl.com/BBBB video. And I think we have about 6,200 subscribers to our YouTube channel. So go in there and give us a thumbs up, give us a like. I guess that's what the thumbs up is, and give us, subscribe to us, tell a friend about it and check out I've had a lot of people come up to me, and I'm not out a whole lot, but when I'm out, I've had people come up and say, hey, I saw you on TV the other day, and I know it's YouTube, they'll say, and something that's flashed. Well, they're usually guys, a little bit older that go back and watch some of the old wrestling that we're talking about, and then inevitably one of our videos from the tinyurl.com/BBBB video slides in on them because they're up there already watching some classic wrestling. So I think that's great that they're throwing in some of our videos, whether it be like last week, Bobby Heenan and Piper, guys we've talked about, Dusty, just things out there that Texas put up here on our YouTube channel. I really appreciate that too.
Yeah.
So.
No, he does a great job, and what's interesting to me, because you and I record, and then I take a day and I edit, and by the time I'm done editing, I am so sick of our voices that I need a week off, and
yeah.
And I rarely go back and re-listen to them, because by the time I'm done editing, I've heard the show, on Mondays, I hear the show 5 times.
Jeez.
And so that goes away, and then Tex comes up with the videos. Well, he does such a good job of adding and slicing up content. I mean, adding to and taking away from.
Yeah. That
I go back and watch those, and I enjoy the show almost brand new because of the context that he adds to the YouTube videos.
Yeah. Yeah, it's great stuff, man. Keep it up, Tex. We appreciate you. Believe that.
Absolutely. Yeah. So by Monday nights, I am so sick of you and my voice. That,
yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I'm just like, I never want to hear these two fuckholes talk again.
All right, well, let's pick back up there, Jeremy. So I had my tryout match. A couple weeks passes by. Smoky Mountain Wrestling runs the show in April. It's in Pikeville, Kentucky. It's called the gimmick is Hillbilly Days. Imagine that. And Pikeville's about 2 hours from me. But they do this every year. They've done it for years. And it's actually called Hillbilly Days. And they've always had, everything you can imagine, from gospel to country to rock performers to professional wrestling and stock car, everything. So they always had wrestling up there. Well, the Bluegrass Brawl takes place. That's where we end up having a Bluegrass Brawl every year was at Pikeville College. And so that after my tryout, that was the following week was the Bluegrass Brawl, which is a big show. And what happened was Robert Gibson, Rock and Roll Express, they were wrestling Stan and Bobby. With Jimmy, of course, and they had a brawl. I think the stud stable was in the match as well. I think it was like a three-way. Think Arn was there. I could be wrong. I think it was the night Arn showed up. He was with the Rock and Roll, Stud Stable, and then Corny in the Midnights. Anyway, if someone wants to check that, feel free to. But I think that's the Bluegrass Ball. Anyway, what happened was Robert Gibson got hurt. And at the time where he was living at, he lived farther than I think just about anyone at that point to come up and do, 2 or 3 or 4 days or whatever. But he was one of the mainstay guys there, But he hurt his ankle. And I think he was swatting off the basketball goal or something. They was climbing basketball posts and everything else, just brawling everywhere in the gym from what I heard. Because I wasn't there. I've only seen some of it on tapes. But Cornette calls me that following week or that following Monday, I guess, after the shows. And he tells me a situation that Robert's hurt. And they got a 3-day loop coming up and want to know if I'd like to be a part of it. And I said, oh, my goodness, yes. Yeah, I'd love to. Well, he said, yeah, we're in Kentucky. Actually, it's 4 nights, but 3 of the nights we're in Kentucky. And he said, yeah, he said, I don't think you're too far from any of these towns. And come to find out, it's about 2 hours from each town. But once you got to the one town, it was only about, an hour and a half, again, from each town. So I was like, hell yeah, I'll do that, man. And so what they did, now listen to this, man, this is, I had my tryout and, talk about struck, whatever. You're going from this tryout to now you're going to be on the crew, and I get there and I go to the babyface locker room, Armstrong's, of course, talk to Mark Curtis and, all this and that. And so what he does, Cornette puts me in a first match against, he puts Tim Horner with Ricky Morton. So that's your Rock and Roll main event. But he also puts me in the opening match against Dr. Tom Pritchard. Can you believe that? Dr. Tom Pritchard, man, in a singles match, opening match with Cornette as his manager. Now, how good is that?
That's pretty solid.
That's pretty damn good. Yeah. So he was going to come back out and do double duty, work later on with who was he working with? Stan was still there. I'm sorry. Stan was there. Bobby had went back, I think, to WCW. So yeah, it was, by this time, yeah, that's who it was. So Tom and I go out there, and of course, you just got about a 15-minute match to, opening match to fill, no big thrills or anything. And man, I remember just locking up with Doc, and I'd only spoke to him back in, a few months before at my tryout. I spoke to him in that locker room, and that was pretty much it. A lot of respect for him, and we had a nice little conversation just about the business because he was such a fan of the business too. He knew about Malenko's. Remember hearing about Malenko out in Houston, saying all these different things. So just being fans like you and I talk, so that was the extent of our conversation, basically wrestling the whole time, So we get in the ring, man, and again, little was said and a lot was done. It's one of them things where you just work. And I remember Cornette being at ringside, and the 2 things I remember Tom saying to me was, believe it or not, he goes, feed Corny, and he just basically put me at the edge of the ring. At the apron, and walked away. So the referee would go with him. Then Cornette come over and got me with the racket, across the throat. So I just had to feed him, stick your head out through there and let him get you, that's that. And the other thing he told me was, right towards the end, he said, can you do a reverse turd stomper, like an atomic drop thing? Because he had me like in a front face lock, and I just picked him up, and, I did just drop him between my legs like a nut shot,
Yeah.
And, that's the 2 things he said. Basically had me in the front, and I had my arms around his waist, and I picked him up. But that's what he said. Can you, if I knew what he was talking about. And I was like, yeah. And that's about the only 2 things he said was speed Corny, and then, can you do it, basically an inverted drop, And And that's how I started my little bit of a comeback. And then finally he cut me off, and boom, 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 there's the finish. So I got to do that for the first couple, 3 nights. And of course I got to watch the show too. And I thought, that's great, man. That's great. You know, cause again, I watched that first show in Beckley from top to bottom when I had my tryout. Mm-hmm. And, anyway, so I'd done that. And then on the third night, I don't think he was there the first night, but the third night, Sullivan was in. I'm not sure what the deal was, but anyway, he was on the show wrestling Brian Lee. I do know that. And, tell you that story real quickly. And that was, they had a battle royal, and all I could think about was, man, he's going to come at me and just chop me. And I'd met him in Florida, Sullivan had. He's going to chop me to pieces and kill me, you know, in this battle royal. And I remember locking up when I got out there, and everyone's out there, all your faces, all the heels climbed in and started attacking us. Kevin Sullivan comes right at me, right to me, backs me into a corner. He goes, hey, I hear Malenko trained you. And I said, yes, sir. Yes, sir. He said, put your hand on my head. When I did, he ran down the center of the ring and propelled himself over the top rope and landed right on his feet outside the ring, flipped me off and said, screw you, Bobby Blaze, eliminated himself right out of the battle royal. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's professional. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. That's working, man. So anyway, I got Tom a couple of times and I had that battle royal. So then the last night there, we was back, believe it or not, how things work. We was in Paintsville, Kentucky. And this is my first loop, and, hadn't been paid or anything. I hadn't asked for anything. I didn't know how it worked. And I know they gave me a check at one time. So again, I was just like, okay, just keep showing up each night. That's what your job is, you know? And so that last night I went back again. Again, it was Paintsville, Kentucky. And Mark Curtis comes in and says, hey, Bobby, Jimmy wants to know what your finish is. And I was tying my boot, and I looked up at him, and I said, on my back putting Tom over, right? You know, something like that. He goes, no, Jimmy brought you someone in to work with. You're going over tonight. And I was like, are you kidding? And he goes, no, I'm not. I'm not messing with you. He goes, what do you want to do? And Robert Gibson was there, and I said, is anyone doing a drop kick off the top rope? And he goes, no. And Robert goes, Bobby, I should do that. He goes, can you do it? And I go, yeah. He goes, have you done it? And I go, yes, yeah, I have. He goes, because again, this was not Robert. Who was it? Maybe Tim, maybe Horner rather. Mm-hmm. One of them said that because they said, you know, have I done it before? And I said, oh yeah, because I hadn't done it as a finish, but I'd done one in training and stuff, you know. The Robert wouldn't have been us, so it would have been Tim, I guess. So I was like, yeah, I can do it. And then Brian goes, okay, that's what it is then. He goes, do you know a guy named Mike Sampson? Well, actually, I did. I'd worked a bunch of independents with him. I knew he was a good worker. He said, that's who's out there. He said, do whatever you want if you trust him and have a good match. He said, he does TV for us. And I said, yeah, sure. I said, just tell him the missile drop kick off the top ropes to finish. And went out there, and of course I had a lot of people there because of, you know, just an hour from my home and stuff. And I told people, you know, I'm going to be there and this and that. Done it, went over, and, you know, got my hand raised and all that. In a night, I got a check for 4 nights' pay, and I was like, man, it was nice, you know. And when Cornette paid me, he said, you know, I'll keep you in mind, man. I've got some TVs coming up if you're interested. And that's kind of from there. That's how I got on because, yeah, Robert was hurt, so it probably would have been Tim who asked me if I could actually do that missile drop kick. But so I got them 4 nights out of the way. And Cornette said, I'll be back in touch with you. And so maybe about 3 or 4 weeks went by, he called me and said, Bobby, would you like to come in and do some TVs? And I said, yeah, I'd love to. It'd be great. And so when I first got the TVs, I didn't have any flashy gear. I was just wearing my black trunks and my black boots like Malenko had, you know, just kind of homage to him, the old school type stuff, you know, black jacket and all that. And so I get the TV. I get to work with Bobby Eaton, Dirty White Boy, a couple other guys. Do a tag team with the Heavenly Bodies. Stan and Tom got to go out with them. Me and Robbie Eagle done that. So I've done like 3 out of 4 tapings. I think I've done 3 of them. I guess it was. And, you know, Jimmy was like, man, you know, I got after that TVs, of course I got beat or whoever, against Bobby. And then, you know, he pit me against. Then, a couple more weeks went by. He said, hey, Bobby, I've got some towns coming up your way. It's the summertime now. You know, this is by summer. And I'm just getting work here now. I'm still working for Bobby Fulton. Bobby Fulton's keep me working up in Ohio. So I'm staying really, you know, and I had a couple of my own shows too, just little small ones, but I was still staying active, you know. And so he said, I've got some shows up in Kentucky coming up. You want to do them? And so I said, yeah, I sure do. So I already done the TV. And I I guess I looked good enough on TV for him or whatever. And I went to one of those shows. The first night was actually in West Virginia. And now listen to this. This is wild, man. So I'm sitting there in the locker room. They used to have can't think of the place now. The Greenbrier up in West Virginia, Lewisburg, up in that area where we was at. Jimmy comes up to me in the locker room. He goes, "Hey, Bobby, do you have any more flashier gear or anything? Anything with flames? Do you just always wear this?" And I'd actually had some stuff already made up with flames and stuff, And I was like, "Yeah, actually I do." And I showed it to him. And he goes, "Oh, I like that. I like that." And I just didn't want to use it, though. I didn't know. I would go on TV. I didn't know what I was going to do. You know what I'm saying? I just wear it down, played it down. So anyway, check this out, man. He says, "You work with Taz tonight. You ever heard of Taz?" And I'm like, "Oh, yeah, I knew who Taz was." I was like, "Yes, sir, I know who." He goes, "Just go out there and have a good match." He goes, "He's like you. He's a shooter. He'll kill you." I said, "Fuck, I'm not a shooter. I'm just here to work, man." I'm thinking, "Oh, fuck, he's going to suplex into me, bitch," kind of thing way back then. But anyway, I knew who Taz was. But and, of course, Mark Curtis put me over to him, blah, blah, blah. And we went in there, and we just had a good match, man. It was his last night in. He'd been there for 3 days, and he was finishing up where I didn't do the other 2 days because I was in Tennessee, but he was on that 3-day loop, and I got him on that last day. Went out there and had like an opening match with Taz, and I'm like, fuck, how you can't screw this up. Just, what I'm saying? Get out there and fucking work, man. We went out there and wrestled some, and I'm sure he suplexed me, this and that, and I got my little comeback in. I did my knees, my drop kicks, this and that. I didn't do a Northern Lights deal, but I had little things I put together. And then at the end, I guess he suplexed me or tapped me out. I don't honestly remember which, because it was just that I really don't remember. It's just a house show. We had a good 15-minute match or whatever, what they needed for the opening match, for him to go out and me to come in, And then, of course, I know Cornette was testing me a little bit too, like, because he's throwing me a Bobby Eaton. I mean, that's fucking one of the best ever,
Yeah.
And then you got a couple of his guys there, Stan and Tom, Then here's a guy, completely different style than what I'm used to, because he's up east and I'm from down south, whatever, and there's me and Taz out there. So you can see, this guy, can work pretty good. And like I said, plus I'm working with Bobby Fulton quite a bit still, on the days I'm not working up there. And from that point on, he said, "Bobby," he said, "come back to TV next time." He said, "I want you wearing that gear you've got." And hell, from there, man, it just I started working, September, October, just started really working every TV taping, every house show that he put me on. About 12 to 16 bookings a month, I was staying busy.
Yeah.
And so if you want, we'll take a break right here if you don't care.
I had a couple follow-up questions for you.
Yeah, go ahead. I need to get a drink, but also I know it's going to change pace. I'm going to go into the next set of stories. So we got up to that.
Take your drink. Well, I've got a couple questions. Yeah.
Yes.
So,
we're just doing a whole career thing of Smoky Mountain. So
yeah. Well, there are just some questions I have now, and this is where the interviewer in me starts coming out again. But so you were saying when you first talked to Jim Cornette, he said, "Send me what you got." I assume that means like a tryout reel or something.
Yeah, I had a VHS tape. It basically, I think, kept around 5 to 7 minutes, and had, I think I put some music in the background. I had some pieces of, I always tried to do, of course, being out Malenko's, I had some footage from, wrestling in Florida. I had some other footage. I had a little bit of footage from a match like me and Dean had worked in, just some footage here and there. I put together, edited, spliced together about 5 to 7 minutes, put some music in the background. Someone put my, name and phone number, address and stuff like that on there. At the beginning, and I think at the beginning I say, "Hey, this is, Bobby Blaze," and, something like that, whatever. But again, about 5 to 7 promo type thing. And then I had some 5x7 black and white pictures, I guess, and a couple color pictures, or maybe a little smaller. I can't remember exactly what I put in that.
Yeah, and for younger people,
and a resume.
I was going to say, for younger people, you got to realize that getting a demo tape and a handful of pictures was a bigger pain in the ass back then than it is now.
It was, yeah. And I did have a typed up resume, because I had been, like I said, I had been to Canada. I put on there, of course, my height and weight, and who I was trained by, and emphasized that, of course, and then some of the places I had worked at. And again, at that point, I had worked in Florida, some independents, here in Kentucky, and then also I went to Canada, and then went to South Africa. By this point, I'd already been to Australia too, as I said. So I just put all that on there. I had these international tours and stuff, and
well, I was going to say
a nice little letter, hey Jim, this is just to let you know I'm kind of following up with what you asked me to do.
Well, and what I thought was funny is when you stumbled on Tim Horner's name a little bit, you went to Tim Horton, which proves you're an American who went to Canada quite a bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I had Tim Hortons coffee for the first time up there. And I love black coffee. I have been off of it for several months now, to be honest with you, but, Tim Hortons is my favorite coffee of all time. And that's because I was in Canada, and we actually have two of them in my hometown here in Kentucky. So.
Oh, do you really? Okay.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do. And the closest one here, I think, in fact, these are only two in Kentucky, and the closest one to us is up towards where, like Chillicothe, Ohio, or somewhere like 45 minutes or an hour away. So
I'll be darned, because the only place I've ever seen them's in Vancouver.
Okay, no, they're great coffee. But I do it all the time. But it must have been Horner, must, whatever.
Well, I just thought that was funny because, it shows how much time you spent in Canada.
Yeah.
Also, how do you feel about Colt Cabana borrowing your ring gear?
Yeah, I kind of caught that too, man. Oh no, man, give me a shout out or something, Fuck.
Yeah, because I can't.
3 or 4 people brought that up to me on Twitter.
Yeah, I can't unsee it now.
I can't either.
Yeah.
I can't either, man.
Yeah. I got to tell you, just to get back to the NWA for a moment. I was kind of pissed to see James Storm lose that national title.
You know what? I was surprised, to be honest with you. But hey, that's why you're a wrestling fan, really.
Yeah, no, I like to be shocked. That's fair. Yeah.
But I agree with you. I was a little bit surprised, man. So.
Yeah. All right. So now you're down there running around with the Smoky Mountain crowd. You're kind of getting your feet wet. Where do we go from here?
Okay. So what happens is Jimmy, told me to show up at TVs and do the house shows, etc. So we go down to, I don't know, like Cumberland, Kentucky, or somewhere, Cumberland Gap or somewhere, Harlan, Kentucky, wherever they're doing TVs at, because to do TV, they do like 3 to 4 episodes, every time we went to a town. Again, we're talking, could be in Hayside, Virginia, Harlan, Kentucky, Harriman, Tennessee, or wherever. Usually a smaller place with a, good high school gym with the good athletic boosters or whoever sponsors you, so you get you a good crowd in there for your house shows. And I get there, and he pulls me aside and says, "Hey, Bobby, I got something in mind for you, if you're interested." And he kind of laid out the deal with Dirty White Boy. And I was like, fuck, yeah, TV, to beat the TV champ, going over on TV. Yeah, hell yeah, and, so that's kind of where it went from there to start a series of programs with Dirty White Boy, where I upset him on TV, and he was just going to beat the dog piss out of me. And basically, he could pin me as many times as he wanted to, but he couldn't make me quit. And all I had to do was I just had to make him either tap out or pin him one time. And of course, that wasn't going to happen. But for that 10 or 12 or 15 minutes, I would only do like 1 or 2 things after first lockup. He would just start heeling out on me and get advantage of me, and then he'd put himself in position, and I'd do something that looked like a comeback, but boom, he'd knock me down again. So basically, I just, took them ass whoopings without quitting, and that was the whole deal, was to build me up as a no-quit kid. This guy's got a lot of fight left in him. He's got a ways to go because he's still green, if you will, because he's coming on that TV and this and that, and I like the layout of it, so we done that. But I'd also met a young guy named Chris Candido, and Jimmy said, "This is who you're going to be working with in the near future." And Chris had driven over he was working over the Memphis territory, and he had driven over one like on a Sunday afternoon show or something in Knoxville. Met him in the back. We talked a little bit, hit it off right away. Young like me, athletic, very well built, very well spoken, that kind of thing. So, that was just kind of planned out that, once I finished up with White Boy, that built me up a little bit, here comes Candido. We start that program, and that gives us, they come to me and, the shoot is, we had a big tournament up in Columbus, Ohio, and I won the U.S. Junior Heavyweight title.
Yeah.
So yeah, whatever. Whoever's out there got that. But anyway, I come back on TV and I've got this one of the nicest belts I've ever seen, and it belonged to Scotty Armstrong, if I'm not mistaken. It was red, white, and blue, and it was the U.S. Junior Heavyweight title, and it was just beautiful. It was a beautiful, beautiful belt, and that's what I got and presented to me. And the idea was that I was going to go back and forth with Candido for this junior title, this U.S. junior title, and so that became a program that we worked on next. So now with the crew, and again at the time, we're working 12 to 16, times a month, which to me I loved, because, a lot of times when you say 12 to 16 times, that's it's enough to make a decent little living off of. I wasn't going to get rich or anything, but it was good. Plus,
pays the
as
bills,
a babyface, you could sell gimmicks. And I caught on to that. See, before, wherever I worked at, the office always kept the money. Like in Canada, if they had pictures of you or whatever, if they did anything like that, that the office kept it. Well, one of my earliest loops, the Rock and Roll Express, shout out to them, man. They're the kings of fucking gimmick sales. And then Tracy Smothers too, man. And we was sitting there. I was in Johnson City, Tennessee, and someone yelled out, "Let the gimmick wars begin." Well, it was intermission, and I was like, "What the fuck's the gimmick wars?" I knew what the gimmicks were, but they started taking off, and Tracy looked at me and goes, "Bob, you got anything to sell?" And I go, "Well, I had some old black and white pictures all I had." He said, "Yeah." He goes, "Bring them with you. Come on, teach you, smarten you up, son." And so we got out there, man. There's fucking people in line behind Rock and Roll's table buying fucking pictures, getting autographs, Polaroids, and this and that. And I never forget it, because Tracy said, "Stand here and get my run off, man." He goes, "You'll do fine." I had them pictures. No one even knew who I was, other than they saw me a little bit on TV or whatever. And I sold like 7 of them for $2 a piece, and I made $14. And I thought, man, that's the greatest fucking thing ever, man. That's great.
All right, everybody, we're going to stop right there. Bobby and I will be back next week to finish up the story about his time in Smoky Mountain Wrestling. Thank you all for joining us again. It's been our pleasure to have you, and it's been your pleasure to listen to Bell to Bell with Bobby Blaze. Bye-bye, everybody.